The distress signal cut through space like a knife through silence, its desperate frequency piercing the cosmic void with the urgency of a dying civilization. On the bridge of the U.S. Retribution, Admiral Sarah Chun stood motionless as the communications officer decoded the alien transmission, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays that painted the command center in ethereal light. "Admiral, we're receiving what appears to be a galactic distress call," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez announced, his voice carrying a mixture of excitement and uncertainty that echoed through the bridge's metallic corridors. "The signal is broadcasting on multiple frequencies, using mathematical sequences that suggest intelligence behind the transmission." Chen's eyes narrowed as she studied the cascading data streams flowing across her personal display. After 30 years of service in Earth's Deep Space Defense Force, she had learned to read between the lines of every anomaly that crossed their sensors. This wasn't just another cosmic phenomenon or natural occurrence that occasionally fooled their equipment into detecting patterns where none existed. "Can we triangulate the source?" she asked, her voice carrying the authority that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced war fleet. The question hung in the air like morning mist, heavy with implications that stretched far beyond their current mission parameters. "Working on it now, ma'am," the navigation officer replied, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces with practiced precision. "Based on signal strength and degradation patterns, I'm estimating the source is approximately 47 light-years away, originating from the Kepler 442 system." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of life support systems and the occasional beep of monitoring equipment. Chun had been expecting this day for decades, ever since the first deep space exploration vessels had begun pushing the boundaries of human knowledge into the vast unknown. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, and now it seemed they had their answer broadcasting directly to their receivers. "Ma'am," the communications officer continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "there's something else. The signal isn't just a distress call. It's specifically requesting military assistance against what the translation algorithms are interpreting as an extinction-level threat." Chen's jaw tightened as the weight of the moment settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. The U.S. Retribution was the flagship of Earth's Frontline war fleet, a massive dreadnought bristling with enough firepower to level entire continents. Surrounding them in perfect formation floated 12 additional vessels, each one a testament to human engineering and military innovation that had been refined through centuries of conflict and technological advancement. The fleet had been on a routine patrol mission along the outer rim of human-controlled space when the signal arrived, investigating reports of unusual gravitational anomalies that had been detected by deep space monitoring stations. Now, suddenly, their mission had evolved into something far more significant than anyone could have imagined when they departed Earth's orbital shipyards 6 months ago. "Admiral, we're receiving additional transmissions," Rodriguez reported, his voice gaining urgency as new data flooded their communication arrays. "Multiple sources, same system. It appears to be a coordinated distress call from what our computers are identifying as at least 7 distinct civilizations." The magnitude of the situation began to crystallize in Chen's mind as she processed this new information. 7 different alien species, all crying out for help simultaneously, all facing the same mysterious threat that required military intervention. The implications were staggering, not just for humanity's first contact protocols, but for the very survival of intelligent life in their local galactic neighborhood. "Commander Torres, what's our current fleet status?" Chen asked, turning to her executive officer, a tall woman whose cybernetic implants glowed softly in the dim bridge lighting. "All ships are at full operational capacity, Admiral," Torres replied without hesitation, consulting the tactical displays that surrounded her station. "The Retribution, Devastator, Thunder's Edge, and our 10 escort frigates are armed, fueled, and ready for extended deployment. Our quantum jump drives are charged and standing by for long-range transit." Chen nodded, her mind racing through the tactical considerations that would determine their next course of action. The fleet under her command represented the cutting edge of human military technology, ships that had been designed and built with one primary purpose: to defend humanity against any threat that might emerge from the depths of space. The Retribution alone carried enough nuclear warheads to sterilize a dozen worlds, its magnetic railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The ship's energy shields could deflect most known forms of directed energy weapons, while its adaptive armor plating could reconfigure itself to resist different types of physical impacts. Analysis complete, Admiral, the navigation officer announced. The distress signal is definitely originating from the Kepler 442 system. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures consistent with large-scale warfare. Whatever's happening there, it's big. Chun studied the tactical hologram that materialized in the center of the bridge, showing the relative positions of their fleet and the distant star system where unknown aliens were fighting for their very survival. The distance was significant, but not impossible for their quantum jump drives to traverse in a reasonable time frame. "Ma'am, we're also detecting something else," the sensor officer reported, his voice carrying a note of concern that made everyone on the bridge turn in his direction. "There are energy readings coming from beyond the Kepler 442 system that don't match anything in our databases. The signatures are wrong somehow." "Define wrong, Lieutenant," Chen ordered, her instincts telling her that this additional information was crucial to understanding the full scope of the situation they were potentially walking into. "The energy patterns are unlike anything we've encountered before," the officer explained, pulling up additional sensor data on the main display. "They seem to absorb light and electromagnetic radiation rather than emit it, creating what can only be described as moving voids in space. Whatever technology is producing these signatures, it's far beyond anything we've theorized possible." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances as the implications of this discovery settled over them like a dark cloud. They were potentially facing an enemy that wielded technology so advanced it defied their current understanding of physics and engineering principles. Chen took a deep breath, feeling the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders with renewed intensity. The decision she made in the next few minutes would either mark humanity's first successful intervention in galactic affairs, or it could lead her entire fleet into a trap from which none of them would return alive. "Admiral," Commander Torres said quietly, stepping closer to Chen's command chair, "regulations require us to contact Earth Command before engaging in any first contact scenarios or military actions outside our designated patrol zone. Regulations also state that in emergency situations, fleet commanders have discretionary authority to act in the best interests of human security," Chen replied, her voice steady despite the enormous pressure of the moment. "A distress call from multiple alien civilizations requesting military aid against an extinction-level threat definitely qualifies as an emergency situation. The communications between Earth and their current position would take hours to travel each way, even using their most advanced quantum entanglement communication systems. By the time they received authorization from Earth Command, whatever was happening in the Kepler 442 system might already be over, leaving only empty space where entire civilizations had once thrived." "Ma'am, incoming transmission from the Devastator," Rodriguez announced. "Captain Morrison is requesting orders regarding fleet deployment and tactical preparation." Chun activated her command interface, opening a secure channel to address all ship commanders simultaneously. 13 faces appeared on her display, each representing years of training, experience, and unwavering loyalty to both their mission and their admiral. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," she began, her voice carrying across the void to every vessel in the fleet. "We have received a galactic distress call from multiple alien civilizations requesting immediate military assistance against an unknown threat. Based on current sensor data, we are dealing with an enemy possessing technology far beyond our current understanding." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing with the weight of command evident in every syllable. "I am authorizing immediate deployment to the Kepler 442 system under emergency protocols. All vessels will prepare for quantum jump in 30 minutes. This is humanity's first contact with alien intelligence, and they're asking for our help. We will not let them down." The responses came back immediately, a chorus of affirmations from ship commanders who had trained their entire careers for moments like this. Whatever fears or uncertainties they might have felt personally, their professional dedication remained absolute and unwavering. As the fleet began its preparation for the quantum jump that would carry them across 47 light-years of space, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to participate in something far larger than any of them could truly comprehend. Humanity was about to announce its presence on the galactic stage, not as explorers or diplomats, but as warriors answering a call for help. The next few hours would determine whether that announcement would be remembered as humanity's finest moment, or as the beginning of their greatest challenge. Either way, there was no turning back from the course they had chosen. The die had been cast, and the galaxy would soon learn what Earth's finest war fleet was truly capable of accomplishing. In the depths of space, quantum drives hummed to life as 13 ships prepared to make a journey that would change the course of galactic history forever. Whatever awaited them in the Kepler 442 system, they would face it together, carrying with them the hopes and determination of an entire species that had never backed down from a fight when innocent lives hung in the balance. The countdown began, and with it, humanity's first step into a larger universe filled with both wonders and terrors beyond their wildest imagination. The quantum jump drives reached full power with a sound that transcended physical noise, creating vibrations that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of space-time itself. Admiral Chun gripped the armrests of her command chair as reality began to bend around the 13 ships of Earth's frontline war fleet, the familiar stars disappearing into streaks of light that stretched across the viewports like cosmic brushstrokes. "Jump sequence initiated," announced the navigation officer, his voice strained against the gravitational forces that were pulling at every atom in their bodies. "Quantum field stability at maximum parameters. Transit time to Kepler 442 system, 14 minutes, 37 seconds. Chun had experienced quantum jumps countless times throughout her career, but the sensation never became truly comfortable. The human mind wasn't designed to comprehend the reality of moving faster than light, of essentially stepping outside normal space-time and emerging somewhere else entirely. The technology worked by creating a temporary bubble of altered physics around each ship, allowing them to slide between the cracks of the universe itself. During the transit, the bridge crew monitored their systems with practiced efficiency, each officer focused on their specific responsibilities while the ship hurtled through dimensions that existed only in mathematical equations. The Retribution's artificial intelligence systems worked continuously to maintain the quantum field integrity, making thousands of micro-adjustments every second to ensure they emerged at their destination intact. "Admiral, we're receiving updated transmissions through the quantum field," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported, his brow furrowed with concentration as he worked to decode the alien messages. "The distress signals are becoming more intense, more desperate. Whatever's happening in that system, it's accelerating." Chun studied the incoming data streams that appeared on her personal display, noting the increasing urgency in the mathematical patterns that served as a universal language between species. The translation algorithms were working overtime to convert alien concepts into human understanding, revealing a picture of devastation that grew more dire with each passing minute. "Translation confidence is now at 73%, Rodriguez continued, adjusting the communication arrays to better receive the distant signals. "The attacking force is being described as devourers of worlds and bringers of the final silence. Multiple references to their technology consuming entire planets and leaving nothing but empty space behind. The implications of this information sent a chill through the bridge crew as they contemplated facing an enemy capable of literally consuming worlds. Chun had seen humanity's weapons of mass destruction in action, had witnessed the devastating power of their most advanced military technology, but the idea of completely erasing planets from existence was beyond anything in their arsenal. "Commander Therese, run a full diagnostic on all weapon systems," Chun ordered, her voice maintaining its steady authority despite the growing uncertainty of their situation. "I want every railgun, every missile tube, and every energy weapon operating at peak efficiency when we arrive." "Already in progress, Admiral," Torres replied, her cybernetic implants flickering as she interfaced directly with the ship's weapon control systems. "Primary batteries are showing green across the board. Nuclear warheads are armed and ready for deployment. Energy shields are at maximum power and standing by for combat configuration." The Retribution was a testament to human engineering excellence, its hull constructed from materials that had been developed specifically for deep space warfare. The ship's primary armament consisted of 12 magnetic rail guns capable of accelerating tungsten projectiles to 20% of light speed, delivering kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons without the radioactive aftermath. Secondary weapons included directed energy beams that could cut through most known materials like heated blades through ice, and a complement of intelligent missiles that could adapt their targeting parameters in real time based on enemy defensive measures. The ship's defensive systems were equally impressive, featuring adaptive energy shields and reactive armor plating that could reconfigure itself to resist different types of attacks. 5 minutes to emergence, the navigation officer announced, his voice cutting through the background hum of the ship's systems. All quantum field parameters remain stable. Fleet formation is holding together perfectly. Chun activated her command interface to check on the status of the other vessels in her fleet. The Devastator and Thunder's Edge were maintaining their positions flawlessly, their massive bulk cutting through the quantum field like ancient warships sailing through familiar waters. The 10 escort frigates formed a protective perimeter around the larger vessels, their smaller size allowing for greater maneuverability while still carrying enough firepower to engage significant threats. Each frigate carried specialized equipment designed for different combat roles, some focused on electronic warfare and sensor jamming, others equipped with long-range missiles and torpedo systems, and still others designed for close-range assault operations. Together, they represented a balanced force capable of adapting to almost any tactical situation they might encounter. Admiral, we're detecting quantum signatures from other vessels entering the Kepler 442 system, the sensor officer reported, his instruments picking up the distinctive energy patterns of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. At least 6 different signature types, none matching our own quantum field configurations. Other species responding to the distress call? Chun asked, feeling a mixture of relief and concern at this development. Relief that humanity wouldn't be facing this unknown threat alone, but concern about coordinating with alien military forces whose capabilities and intentions remained completely unknown. That would be my assessment, ma'am, the officer replied, fine-tuning his sensors to gather more detailed information about the new arrivals. Based on the quantum field variations, we're looking at technologies that are significantly more advanced than our own, but also some that appear to be less sophisticated than human systems. The revelation that humanity's technology might be somewhere in the middle range of galactic development was both encouraging and sobering. They wouldn't be the most primitive force on a battlefield, but they certainly wouldn't be the most advanced either. Their success would depend on tactics, determination, and the unique qualities that had allowed humanity to rise from a single world to become masters of interstellar warfare. 2 minutes to emergence came the next announcement, followed by the subtle shift in the ship's vibrations that indicated the quantum drives beginning their shutdown sequence. All systems showing optimal performance. Emergence point confirmed as outer edge of Kepler 442 system. Chun stood from her command chair and walked to the main viewport, gazing out at the swirling patterns of distorted space-time that surrounded their ship during quantum transit. Soon, they would emerge into normal space and get their first look at an alien star system under siege by forces that defied understanding. All hands, prepare for emergence, she announced over the ship-wide communication system, her voice reaching every crew member aboard the massive vessel. We are about to enter a combat zone against an unknown enemy. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and know that you carry the hopes of humanity with you. Whatever we face out there, we face it together. The countdown continued as the ship's systems prepared for the transition back to normal space-time. Weapon systems came online with mechanical precision. Targeting computers began their startup sequences, and defensive shields powered up to full operational capacity. Every member of the crew took their positions, knowing that the next few moments would determine whether they lived to see another day. Emergence in 10 seconds, the navigation officer called out, his voice tight with concentration. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Emergence complete. Reality snapped back into focus with jarring suddenness as the 13 ships of Earth's fleet materialized on the outskirts of the Kepler 442 system. Immediately, their sensors began painting a picture of devastation that exceeded their worst expectations. The viewports filled with the sight of burning worlds, shattered space stations, and debris fields that stretched across millions of kilometers. My God, whispered Commander Torres, her enhanced vision taking in details that normal human eyes would have missed. What happened here? The answer came in the form of sensor readings that defied belief. Massive shapes moved through the system like living shadows, their hulls seeming to absorb light and energy rather than reflect it. These were the devourers the distress signals had warned them about, and seeing them in person made it clear why multiple civilizations have been reduced to begging for help from anyone who might hear their calls. "Admiral, we're being hailed by multiple alien vessels," Rodriguez announced, his voice carrying a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "They're requesting immediate coordination for a joint assault on the hostile forces." Chun straightened her shoulders and prepared to make humanity's first official contact with alien civilizations. The introductions would have to be brief, because the battle for the survival of multiple species was about to begin in earnest. "Open all channels," she ordered, knowing that the next word she spoke would mark humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. "This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Earth Frontline Warfleet. We received your distress call, and we're here to help." The response that came back was a mixture of relief, gratitude, and desperate hope transmitted in a dozen different languages that their computers scrambled to translate. Humanity had arrived at its first galactic conflict, and the outcome would determine the fate of civilizations scattered across the stars. As the fleet moved deeper into the system, Chun couldn't help but feel that this moment would be remembered as the day humanity proved itself worthy of taking its place among the stars, or the day they learned that some threats were too great for any single species to face alone. The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would soon discover what Earth's children were capable of when innocent lives hung in the balance. The alien fleet that welcomed Earth's arrival was unlike anything humanity had ever imagined in their most ambitious science fiction. Crystalline ships that seemed to grow rather than be built hung in perfect formation alongside vessels that appeared to be carved from single pieces of dark matter. Biomechanical craft pulsed with organic rhythms, while geometric constructs defied conventional understanding of physics with their impossible angles and surfaces. "Admiral, we have established communication protocols with the combined fleet," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with wonder as the translation algorithms worked to bridge the gap between dozens of different species. "The fleet commander is someone called High Regent Vexhai of the Zilithian Concordat. They're requesting immediate tactical coordination." Admiral Chun studied the holographic display that materialized before her command chair, showing the positions of over 200 alien vessels arranged in defensive formations around what remained of inhabited worlds in the system. The diversity of ship designs was staggering, each one representing thousands of years of technological development by species that had evolved under completely different conditions. "Put me through to their command frequency," Chun ordered, straightening her uniform as she prepared for humanity's first diplomatic contact with alien leadership. The weight of representing her entire species in this moment was not lost on her, especially under such dire circumstances. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially in some other dimension. High Regent Vexhai appeared to be made of flowing energy constrained within a vaguely humanoid outline, their voice resonating through harmonics that the translation software rendered into perfectly understandable English. "Admiral Chun of Earth," Vexhai spoke, their form shifting between colors that had no names in human language. "Your arrival brings hope to a situation that had grown beyond desperate. We have been fighting the consuming dark for 17 standard cycles, watching worlds die and entire civilizations vanish into the void." "High Regent," Chun replied formally, "Earth's fleet stands ready to assist in any way possible. Can you brief us on the current tactical situation and the nature of these enemy forces?" The holographic display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of the Kepler 442 system, with red markers indicating hostile forces and blue markers showing the positions of the defending fleet. The picture was grim, with the enemy controlling nearly 60% of the system and advancing steadily toward the remaining inhabited worlds. "The entities we fight are not biological in any sense we understand," Vexhai explained, their form flickering with what appeared to be distress. "They consume matter and energy directly, converting entire worlds into fuel for their expansion. Their ships regenerate damage by absorbing the mass of whatever they destroy, making conventional warfare nearly ineffective. Chun felt a chill run down her spine as she processed this information. An enemy that grew stronger by destroying their opponents was the stuff of nightmares, especially for military commanders accustomed to wearing down enemy forces through sustained combat operations. What weapons have proven effective against them? She asked, her tactical mind already working on potential strategies despite the dire nature of the enemy they faced. High-energy particle streams can disrupt their matter conversion processes temporarily, replied another voice as a new figure joined the communication channel. This being appeared to be insectoid in nature, with multiple limbs and compound eyes that reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. I am Swarm Coordinator Kaelnith of the Arthropoid Collective. Our analysis indicates that concentrated firepower applied to their core structures can force them to retreat, but we lack sufficient ships to exploit these weaknesses. Chen nodded, her mind racing through the implications of this intelligence. The human fleet's massive firepower advantage might be exactly what the Alliance needed to turn the tide of this battle, assuming they could coordinate their attacks effectively with dozens of different species using completely different tactical doctrines. Admiral, we're detecting movement from the hostile forces, Commander Torres announced from her position at the tactical station. Multiple large signatures are breaking away from the main enemy fleet and heading directly toward our position. The sensor displays immediately updated to show massive dark shapes accelerating through space toward the combined Allied fleet. These weren't ships in any conventional sense, but rather voids in space itself that moved with purpose and malevolent intelligence. Their approach caused visible distortions in local space-time, bending light and gravity around their hulls like cosmic predators stalking their prey. Incoming transmission from the lead enemy vessel, Rodriguez reported, his voice carrying a note of confusion. They're attempting to communicate with us directly. Put it through, Chen ordered, knowing that understanding their enemy's motivations might provide crucial tactical advantages. The main screen shifted to display what could only be described as a window into absolute darkness, from which emerged a voice that seemed to drain warmth from the air itself. Flesh things from the small blue world, the voice spoke in perfect English, somehow having absorbed human language from their communication signals. Your presence here is curious. We have consumed 17 species in this system, absorbed their knowledge and their essence. Yet you arrive bringing primitive weapons to stand against inevitability itself. Chun kept her expression neutral despite the horror of realizing that this entity had learned English by consuming the minds of the beings it had destroyed. We received a distress call and came to render assistance. We suggest you withdraw from this system immediately. A sound that might have been laughter emerged from the darkness, carrying undertones that made several bridge crew members visibly uncomfortable. Your species shows promise, Admiral Chun. Your minds burn with such interesting patterns of aggression and innovation. We will enjoy adding your essence to our collective understanding when this system is cleansed. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence as the implications of the enemy's words settled over them like a funeral shroud. They were facing something that didn't just destroy civilizations, but absorb them, adding their knowledge and capabilities to an ever-growing collective consciousness. Admiral, the enemy fleet is accelerating, Torres reported, her cybernetic implants flickering as she processed tactical data at superhuman speeds. Estimate contact in 14 minutes. All enemy vessels are converging on our position, apparently considering us the primary threat. Chun activated the fleet command channel, her voice carrying to every ship under her command as well as the allied alien vessels that had agreed to coordinate their attacks. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. We are about to engage an enemy unlike anything we've faced before. Remember that we're not just fighting for our own survival, but for the continuation of intelligent life in this part of the galaxy. She paused, looking around her bridge at the faces of officers who had served with her through countless missions and conflicts. Our weapons may be primitive by galactic standards, but they carry something that our enemy cannot understand or absorb: the determination of beings who choose to stand together in the face of overwhelming darkness. The response was immediate and overwhelming as ships across the Allied fleet began acknowledging her words in dozens of different languages and communication methods. Despite their vast differences in biology, technology, and culture, they were united by their refusal to surrender to extinction without a fight. Enemy vessels entering extreme weapons range. The weapons officer announced, his hand steady on the targeting controls despite the unprecedented nature of their opponents. All railguns are charged and ready for firing solutions. Nuclear warheads are armed and standing by for deployment orders. Chun watched as the void ships approached, their dark hulls seeming to devour the starlight around them. Whatever these beings were, wherever they had come from, they had made a crucial error in judgment. They had assumed that primitive weapons meant primitive thinking, that technological inferiority meant weakness of will. Target the lead vessel with full primary battery, Chen ordered, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge like a blade. All ships in the fleet, coordinate your fire on my mark. Let's show these things what happens when they threaten innocent civilizations. The moment of truth was at hand, and humanity was about to announce its presence on the galactic stage with the thunder of its guns and the fury of its determination. The battle for the Kepler 442 system was about to begin in earnest, and the outcome would determine whether the galaxy's younger species had what it took to stand against the darkness that sought to consume everything in its path. As targeting solutions locked onto enemy vessels and weapon systems reached full power, Admiral Chen couldn't help but feel that this moment would define not just the battle ahead, but humanity's entire future among the stars. They had come to answer a distress call, and now they would discover whether their response was enough to turn the tide of an intergalactic war. The countdown to engagement began, and with it, the first chapter of humanity's greatest test in the vast theater of space. The first salvo from Earth's fleet lit up the darkness of space like a miniature supernova, 12 rail guns firing simultaneously from the Retribution alone. Tungsten projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds crossed the void in seconds, their kinetic energy sufficient to shatter asteroids and breach the hulls of any conventional vessel. Admiral Chun watched in fascination and horror as the projectiles struck the lead void ship and simply vanished, absorbed into the creature's dark hull without any visible effect. What should have been a devastating opening attack had been consumed as effortlessly as a sponge absorbing water drops. Direct hits confirmed, but no apparent damage to enemy vessel, reported the weapons officer, his voice carrying disbelief as sensor readings confirmed what their eyes had witnessed. Energy signatures from the target are actually increasing, as if it's feeding on our kinetic bombardment. The alien fleet commander's warnings have been accurate, but seeing the effect firsthand was far more disturbing than any briefing could convey. The enemy didn't just resist their attacks. It grew stronger from them, converting the energy of Earth's most powerful weapons into fuel for its own expansion. All ships, cease fire immediately, Chun ordered, her tactical mind racing to adapt their strategy to this unprecedented situation. Switch to dispersal patterns and prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to reassess our approach to these targets. The void ships responded to Earth's assault by accelerating their advance, their dark hulls rippling with absorbed energy as they closed the distance to the Allied fleet with terrifying speed. Space around them warped and twisted, creating gravitational anomalies that affected the movement of nearby vessels and made accurate targeting nearly impossible. Admiral, we're receiving tactical data from the Zalithian Concordat, Commander Torres announced, her cybernetic implants processing incoming information at superhuman speeds. They're transmitting their accumulated knowledge about enemy weak points and effective attack patterns. The data stream that flooded their computers revealed 17 cycles of bitter warfare and hard-won tactical knowledge. The void ships, while nearly invulnerable to direct assault, showed vulnerabilities when attacked with specific frequencies of directed energy weapons. More importantly, they required a brief period to process and convert absorbed energy, creating windows of opportunity for coordinated strikes. Target priority is their core conversion chambers, Chen announced to the fleet, her voice carrying across multiple communication channels as she shared the new intelligence with all Allied vessels. Concentrate fire on the central hull sections using alternating frequency patterns. We need to overload their absorption capacity faster than they can process incoming energy. The battle plan that emerged was unlike anything in human military doctrine, requiring precise timing and coordination between dozens of ships using completely different weapon systems and tactical approaches. Earth's fleet would serve as the primary bombardment force, using their massive kinetic weapons to force the void ships into defensive absorption mode, while the alien vessels struck with energy weapons tuned to specific frequencies that disrupted the conversion process. Enemy vessels are within close engagement range, the tactical officer announced as the lead void ship loomed large on their displays, its dark hull now close enough to resolve individual details that defied easy description. The surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid shadow, with structures that appeared and disappeared according to no discernible pattern. "Execute coordinated assault pattern Alpha," Chun ordered, her voice cutting through the tension as hundreds of ships moved into position with practiced precision. "All human vessels, focus fire on target designation Omega-1. Alien allies, engage targets Omega-2 through Omega-7 with disruption frequencies." The coordinated assault began with a symphony of destruction that illuminated the battle space with every conceivable form of destructive energy. Railgun projectiles streaked through space alongside particle beams, plasma bolts, and exotic weapons that manipulated fundamental forces in ways that human science was only beginning to understand. For a moment, the strategy appeared to be working. The lead void ship's hull began showing signs of instability as its conversion chamber struggled to process the overwhelming input of kinetic and energy-based attacks. Sections of its dark surface flickered and sparked with contained energy discharges that suggested internal systems under severe stress. But the creature adapted with terrifying speed, its hull configuration shifting to create specialized absorption nodes that could handle different types of incoming fire simultaneously. Within minutes, it had not only stabilized its condition, but begun actively hunting the ships that posed the greatest threat to its operations. "Evasive maneuvers," Chun shouted as the void ships suddenly accelerated directly toward the Retribution, its intent clearly to ram their flagship and absorb both the vessel and its crew into its expanding mass. "Emergency power to engines and shields." The massive dreadnought rolled desperately to avoid collision, its bulk requiring precious seconds to respond to the helm's commands. The void ship passed close enough that its gravitational field distorted the Retribution's hull plating, leaving ripples in the metal that would remain as permanent reminders of their near-death encounter. "Admiral, the Thunder's Edge is reporting critical damage," Torres announced, her voice tight with concern as tactical displays showed one of their heavy cruisers trailing atmosphere and debris from glancing below by another void ship. "They've lost primary power and are requesting immediate assistance." Chen's jaw clenched as she watched the tactical situation deteriorate despite their coordinated efforts. The void ships were learning from each exchange, adapting their tactics and capabilities in real time to counter every strategy the Allied fleet attempted. What had begun as a coordinated assault was rapidly becoming a desperate survival battle. "Deploy Electronic Warfare Package 7, she ordered, authorizing the use of some of humanity's most closely guarded military secrets. "Full-spectrum jamming and gravitational interference. If we can't destroy them conventionally, maybe we can blind them long enough to develop alternative tactics." The electronic warfare suite activated with a surge of energy that filled local space with white noise across every conceivable frequency, while specialized generators created artificial gravitational distortions designed to interfere with the void ship's apparent ability to manipulate space-time for propulsion and defense. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The void ships suddenly found themselves unable to maintain their precise formation as their sensory and navigation systems struggled to compensate for the electromagnetic chaos surrounding the battlefield. Their movement became erratic, almost confused, as if they were operating blind for the first time since the battle began. "Direct hit," the weapons officer called out as a concentrated barrage from 3 human frigates struck a medium-sized void ship that had been caught off guard by the jamming effect. "Target is showing significant hull damage and energy bleeding from multiple breach points." For the first time since the engagement began, the Allied fleet had managed to inflict meaningful damage on their seemingly invulnerable opponents. The wounded void ship's hull flickered between solid matter and empty space, suggesting that its fundamental integrity had been compromised by the unexpected assault. "All ships, focus fire on the damaged target," Chun ordered, seizing the opportunity to press their advantage while the enemy remained disoriented by the electronic warfare assault. Maximum firepower, all available weapon systems. The concentrated assault that followed was devastating in its intensity, dozens of ships pouring every weapon they possessed into the wounded void ship. Under such overwhelming firepower, even its advanced absorption capabilities proved insufficient, and the creature's hull began to disintegrate as its conversion chambers overloaded catastrophically. The destruction of the first void ship sent shockwaves through both fleets as everyone realized that these seemingly invincible enemies could indeed be defeated with the right tactics and sufficient determination. The explosion that marked its death was unlike anything in conventional warfare, as stored energy and absorbed matter were released simultaneously in a burst that briefly outshone the system's star. Enemy fleet is regrouping, Torres reported, her voice carrying both triumph and concern as the remaining void ships began adapting to the electronic warfare tactics that had proven so effective. They're implementing counter-jamming procedures and appear to be developing immunity to our interference patterns. Chen nodded grimly, knowing that their window of advantage was rapidly closing as their opponents learned to compensate for yet another human innovation. The battle was far from over, and the enemy's ability to adapt meant that each successful tactic would only work for a limited time before becoming ineffective. "Signal all Allied vessels," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had found the key to victory despite overwhelming odds. "Prepare for rolling electronic warfare deployment. We're going to keep them off balance with constantly changing interference patterns while hitting them with everything we've got." The battle for the Kepler 442 system was entering its most crucial phase, as humanity's innovative approach to warfare began to turn the tide against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. The galaxy was about to learn that humans possessed something that even the most advanced species had failed to develop: the ability to innovate and adapt faster than their enemies could compensate. As the fleet prepared for the next phase of the engagement, Chen couldn't help but feel that they were witnessing the birth of a new era in galactic warfare, one where humanity's unique perspective and relentless determination would prove that technological superiority wasn't always the determining factor in military conflicts. The void ships had consumed 17 civilizations, but they had never faced anything quite like the stubborn, inventive, and absolutely refused to surrender nature of Earth's children. The battle had raged for 6 hours when Admiral Chun realized that conventional tactics alone would not be sufficient to save the Kepler 442 system. Despite their success in destroying 3 void ships using innovative electronic warfare techniques, the remaining enemy forces had adapted with frightening efficiency, developing countermeasures that neutralized each new strategy within minutes of its deployment. "Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the inner system," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported, his voice heavy with exhaustion and growing desperation. "The fourth planet's orbital defense platforms have gone silent, and we're detecting massive energy signatures consistent with planetary consumption beginning." Chen studied the tactical display with grim determination, watching as red markers indicated the steady advance of void ships toward populated worlds that contained billions of innocent beings. The Allied fleet had managed to slow the enemy advance, but hadn't stopped it, and time was rapidly running out for entire civilizations that depended on their success. "Fleet status report," she ordered, her voice cutting through the bridge's tense atmosphere as officers worked frantically to maintain their ship's combat effectiveness despite hours of intense fighting. "The Retribution is at 73% combat efficiency," Commander Torres replied, her cybernetic implants flickering as she processed damage reports from across their vessel. "The Devastator has lost 2 main gun turrets, but remains operational, and Thunder's Edge is running on auxiliary power but still fighting. We've lost 4 frigates, with 3 more reporting critical damage." The human fleet had paid a heavy price for their innovative tactics, but they had proven something that 17 previous civilizations had failed to accomplish. The void ships could be hurt, could be destroyed, and, most importantly, could be stopped if someone was willing to pay the necessary cost in blood and steel. "Admiral," the communications officer announced, his voice carrying a note of excitement that cut through the bridge's grim atmosphere, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. They're reporting the arrival of additional forces." Chen's heart leaped as sensor readings confirmed the emergence of quantum signatures at the edge of the system, indicating the arrival of ships using Earth's distinctive faster-than-light technology. What appeared on their displays, however, was far beyond anything she had expected to see. "My God," whispered the sensor officer, his voice filled with awe as he processed the incoming data. "Admiral, it's not just reinforcements. It's the entire Sol defense fleet, plus what appears to be every available warship from the Centauri and Vega colonies. I'm counting over 300 human vessels." The quantum emergence points lit up like fireworks as ship after ship materialized in the outer system, each one representing Earth's determination to stand by their forces when the fate of galactic civilization hung in the balance. Dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Retribution emerged alongside swarms of fighters, bombers, and support vessels that had been pulled from every corner of human space. "Incoming transmission from the flagship Terra Invictus," Rodriguez announced, his voice barely containing his excitement as he established contact with the relief force. "It's Fleet Admiral Harrison himself." The main screen activated to show Admiral Harrison's weathered face, his expression carrying both concern and fierce determination as he surveyed the battlefield that his forces had arrived to join. Behind him, the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship bustled with activity as officers prepared for the largest space battle in human history. "Admiral Chun," Harrison's voice carried across the void with the authority of Earth's supreme military commander, "we received your tactical reports and came as quickly as possible. The entire human fleet stands ready to support your operations and protect these systems from the enemy threat." "Acknowledged, Admiral Harrison," Chun replied, feeling a surge of hope as she contemplated the massive reinforcement that had just arrived. "We've developed effective tactics against enemy forces, but they adapt quickly to our strategies. We'll need overwhelming firepower applied in coordinated patterns to achieve decisive results." "Understood," Harrison nodded, his expression grim as he processed the tactical situation. "We've brought some experimental weapons that our scientists have been developing, including quantum disruptors that should interfere with their matter conversion processes. Are you prepared to coordinate a system-wide assault?" Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of officers who had fought with desperate courage for hours against a seemingly impossible enemy, then activated the fleet-wide communication channel to address every human vessel in the system. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun," her voice carrying to hundreds of vessels spread across the battle space. "Earth has sent us reinforcements and new weapons. We're going to end this battle here and now, not just for ourselves, but for every species in this galaxy that refuses to surrender to extinction." The response was immediate and overwhelming as ship after ship acknowledged her words, creating a chorus of human voices that spanned light years of space. From the massive dreadnoughts to the smallest frigates, every crew member understood that they were participating in a moment that would define humanity's place among the stars. "Execute Operation Prometheus," Admiral Harrison commanded, authorizing the deployment of humanity's most advanced experimental weapons. "All vessels, quantum disruptors to maximum power. Their absorption capabilities are failing as quantum disruption interferes with their conversion processes." Chun seized the moment, knowing that this might be their only opportunity to achieve decisive victory against an enemy that learned from every encounter. "All ships, full assault pattern Omega. Every weapon, every missile, everything we have. End this now." The combined assault that followed was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. 300 human warships pouring every form of destructive force they possessed into the destabilized void ship fleet. Railguns, particle beams, nuclear warheads, and exotic quantum weapons created a storm of destruction that illuminated the entire star system with the fury of human determination. The void ships, their adaptive capabilities overwhelmed by the quantum disruption and their conversion processes failing under the relentless bombardment, began disintegrating one by one. Each destruction released the absorbed energy and matter of 17 conquered civilizations, creating explosions that briefly outshone stars as stolen knowledge and consumed lives were finally set free. "Enemy fleet destruction confirmed," Torres reported, her voice carrying disbelief as sensor readings confirmed that the seemingly invincible void ships had been completely eliminated. "All hostile signatures have been neutralized. The system is secure." The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the gentle hum of ship systems and the distant voices of allied alien vessels expressing their gratitude in dozens of different languages. Humanity had answered the galaxy's call for help and succeeded where 17 previous civilizations had failed. "Admiral," Rodriguez announced, his voice filled with wonder. "We're receiving communications from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading, and dozens of species are requesting to establish diplomatic contact with Earth. They want to know more about the species that came to help when no one else could." Chun smiled as she contemplated the future that stretched before them, knowing that this battle had marked humanity's transition from a single-world species to a major player in galactic affairs. They had proven that technological advancement wasn't the only measure of a civilization's worth, that innovation, determination, and the willingness to stand together in the face of overwhelming darkness were qualities that transcended any species' particular evolutionary path. "Signal Earth Command," she ordered, her voice carrying the satisfaction of duty fulfilled and challenges overcome. "Inform them that the Kepler 442 system has been secured and that humanity's first intervention in galactic affairs has been successfully completed." As the combined human fleet began the long process of providing humanitarian aid to the surviving populations and establishing diplomatic relations with their new alien allies, Chin couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this moment. They had left Earth as a patrol fleet investigating gravitational anomalies, and they were returning as the heroes who had saved multiple civilizations from extinction. The distress call that had started it all continued to echo across the galaxy, but now it carried a different message. Instead of desperate pleas for help, it spoke of hope, of species willing to stand together against the darkness, and of a small blue world whose children had proven that sometimes the greatest strength came not from advanced technology, but from the simple refusal to let evil triumph over innocence. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as conquerors or explorers, but as protectors of the innocent and defenders of the weak. The galaxy would remember this day not just as the defeat of the void ships, but as the moment when Earth's children announced to the universe that they stood ready to answer any call for help, no matter how distant or dangerous the journey might be. The Kepler 442 system was safe, but more importantly, the galaxy now knew that it found new guardians who would never abandon those in need. The age of humanity's isolation was over, and the age of their responsibility to the greater galactic community had begun.